Hi, this is Pam from the Hooked on Sewing blog. In this video tutorial, I'd like to show you how to sew a fabric and clear vinyl zipper pouch. You will need some cotton fabric for the top of your bag and for the zipper tabs. You will also need some clear vinyl. I'm using 16 gauge vinyl that I purchased from Joann Fabrics. You'll also need a zipper, and some wonder clips would come in handy because you don't want to use pins on your vinyl. You may also want to have your zipper foot and a teflon foot. And you will need some fusible interfacing or some type of interfacing for the fabric portion of your zipper pouch. This is the cut list. You'll cut your vinyl 7 inches high by 11 inches wide. You need 2 pieces. 2 pieces of fabric, 6 inches by 11 inch. That's for the top. Fabric for your zipper tabs, your interfacing, and you will also need a 10-inch zipper or a zipper 1 inch shorter than the width of your project. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take the piece of fabric, fold it in half, insert my interfacing, and I'm just going to do some top stitching or some machine quilting with my sewing machine across the top of it. So once I have that interfacing pushed up nicely against the fold and I have it all clipped in place, I'm just going to use my sewing machine to do some top stitching. Okay, so I have just set up my regular presser foot on my sewing machine, and I'm going to take my first row of stitching about 1 inch away from that fold, and I'm going to stitch using a 3.5 millimeter stitch length all the way down that piece of fabric. And then remove my clips as I go. And then I'm going to use my quilting guide bar. I'll insert my quilting guide bar into my presser foot, into the arm of the presser foot, I guess. And I will measure it to be 1 inch away from the needle. Then I will line my previous row of stitching up with that stitching guide bar and follow along that with that stitching line, and it will allow me to create perfectly straight and spaced rows. I'm going to repeat that with the back side of my fabric. I'll take the fabric, fold it in half, unfold it, put the piece of interfacing in there up tight against the fold, and clip that all together. And then again, I'm going to stitch 1 inch away from the fold, all the way down. And then I'm using my quilt guide bar, lined my previous row of stitching up with that guide bar, and stitch straight down the length of that piece of fabric. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to remove my quilting guide bar. And I'm going to switch out and use my Teflon foot. Teflon is great for when you are stitching with vinyl or leather, anything like that, faux leather. So what we're going to do now is take one of the pieces of fabric that we quilted and line up the raw edge with one of the long edges of the vinyl. Now the vinyl came with tissue paper, and I recommend that you keep that tissue paper with the vinyl. It's going to help you sew this together more easily. So I'm just clipping all the raw edges, long edge together. I have my tissue paper, my vinyl, and then my folded piece of fabric that we just previously top stitched. And I'm going to use about a 3/8 inch seam allowance to stitch the fabric to the vinyl. And yep, so just about 3/8 of an inch, or about a presser foot width away from the edge of that fabric. Stitch all the way to the end, back stitch to secure my stitching. Then I'm going to finger press it by folding it upwards and folding the fabric away from the vinyl. Now see, when we did our stitching, it perforated that tissue paper, and it makes it perfectly easy to just pull it away. So now I'm going to top stitch along the fabric about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch away from the fold or from the seam where the fabric is attached to the vinyl. And then I'm going to repeat this with the other piece of vinyl. I actually did 2 rows of top stitching along that just to help the fabric, that 3/8 inch seam, stay flat better. So I did about 1/8 of an inch away and then 1/4 of an inch away from that previous row of stitching. So now we're going to attach our zipper. I'm using a zipper by the yard, but you can use any zipper. You'll want to trim your zipper down to 10 inches and then take your zipper tab, fold it in half, press it, unfold it, fold those raw ends in towards the fold and press again. And then we'll take that fabric and place it on one of the ends of the zipper. I've switched out to my zipper foot now, and then I'm going to stitch completely across the zipper. And that is the zipper tab. And then I will repeat that with the other end of the zipper. And I'm also going to trim off the width of the zipper tabs to be even with the zipper tape. Okay, so make sure I have the zipper partially unzipped. And again, I take one of the other zipper tabs and just center my zipper end right in the middle of that. Put it on under my presser foot and stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. And then I'm going to trim that fabric to be even with the zipper tape. Now the zipper tape is the fabric part of the zipper. So just take my scissors and trim that up. All right, so now we're ready to attach our zipper to our bag. So take one of your bag pieces and line up the zipper so that it is centered on that piece of fabric. You're going to have about 1/2 inch on each side of the zipper for your seam allowance. So partially unzip your zipper and line up one long edge with the raw edge of the fabric. Now I put the zipper pull on the left so that when I open it, it goes left to right. And now I'm going to take my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch close to the zipper teeth, but not on top of them. You definitely don't want to stitch on top of the zipper teeth. So lower my needle, take a few stitches, back stitch to secure that stitching, and then stitch right along so the presser foot kind of goes right along the edge of the zipper teeth on the right of the zipper. I had a piece of thread caught up in there. Okay, so continue stitching along to attach the zipper to that fabric. And I'm using Wonder Clips instead of pins, especially when working with material like vinyl that you don't want to puncture and leave a permanent hole in. You want to use something like these binder clips that won't damage your material. Plus, I find them just super handy and convenient to use, and you don't have to worry about poking your fingers and things like that. So stitch all the way down to the end, doing some back stitching when you reach the end of the zipper tab to secure that in place. There we have one side of the zipper sewn in. So I just finger press that seam away from the zipper, and with the zipper right side up, I'm going to top stitch along that folded seam to kind of hold that seam down and away from the zipper. So just back stitch to secure my stitching, and then stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the folded edge of the fabric all the way down, all the way across. Okay, so I have that top stitching done, and that will keep that fabric and the zipper safely folded away from the zipper teeth so it doesn't get caught during the use of the zipper pouch. And again, I am going back over that another about 1/4 of an inch away from the fold, just to really secure that zipper tape out of the way and the fabric out of the way. And because I used a wider, like 3/8 inch seam, I thought it looked nicer with a double row of top stitching. So I'm raising my presser foot once I reach the zipper pull, and pull it out of the way, lower my zipper foot, and continue sewing to the other end. Okay, once you have that side done, you're ready to attach it to the other side. So unzip your zipper, lay your other fabric piece right side up, line up your zipper to the top edge, and then clip that in place. Again, make sure the ends are about 1/2 inch away from the edges of your fabric, which allows for your seam allowance and keeps your zipper from getting caught up in that seam allowance. And then just pin the zipper to the top of the fabric. And then once we have this all clipped together, we're going to sew this side of the zipper pouch just like we did the previous side. Okay, I'm just making sure that I have my zipper nice and centered on that piece of fabric and that the edges line up. And then I will stitch about a 3/8 inch seam allowance along that top edge to secure the zipper to the piece of fabric. Again, the presser foot, I'm using a zipper presser foot, and I'm going to line it up so that it runs right along the zipper teeth. Just make sure that you don't stitch over your zipper teeth and that you keep the same distance all the way down the zipper. When you get to the end, back stitch to reinforce your stitches. All right, there we go. So now, like I said, we're going to just stitch those seam allowances down away from the zipper by top stitching about 1/4 inch away from the zipper teeth and about 1/8 inch away from the zipper teeth. Okay, I'm just doing my top stitching to secure that seam allowance out of the way of the zipper. I decided to go ahead and add another row of top stitching on the fabric. And now we're going to sew these together. So line up your raw edges of the vinyl, and now you'll have your fabric right sides together, or so that you see the wrong side of the zipper. And make sure you have all those fabric pieces lined up together when you clip them together for your sewing. I'm going to switch over to my Teflon foot again since I'm going to be stitching against the vinyl. And that will help to feed the vinyl better through my sewing machine. So I'm going to stitch about a 3/8 inch to a 1/2 inch seam allowance straight down the side. And when I get to the corner, I'm going to stop about 3/8 inch away and pivot and then stitch across the bottom. And then when I get to the next corner, I will stop and pivot and stitch all the way up the top, reinforcing, back stitching to reinforce my seams at the end. Now again, I have my zipper open so I can turn my bag inside out when I'm done. Okay, I want to mention again that when you are stitching over the fabric close to the zipper and including the zipper tabs, you want to make sure you're not stitching over the zipper tabs. You should be just to the left of the zipper tab when you're stitching across it. Now I'm going to trim this vinyl down to about 1/4 inch. I'm going to clip my corners. And then if I want to box this pouch, I can do that at this point. I'm just stitching back over the fabric portion of the bag to reinforce that seam. And then I'll flip it over and stitch again on the other side, the other edge, just to reinforce the seam where the fabric is. Okay. Trim off any threads, loose ends. Now, if I want to box these corners, all you have to do is take the bottom seam, line it up with the side seam, so you kind of pinch those two together so the seams are lined up and it forms a triangle at the corner. And then you come down about an inch from the corner and stitch straight across there. That will give you a nice boxed corner. So here I'm just turning the pouch inside out. If your pouch is a little difficult to work with, you can lay it in the sun or maybe use your hair dryer on it for just a couple of minutes on a medium setting to help soften it up so it's more pliable and easier to work with. And there is my zipper pouch. It's all finished. Okay, so this is what the top of the zipper pouch looks like. The zipper tabs, the zipper, and here I went ahead and I boxed that bottom corner. I made my bag. It's in several different sizes. These are two of the sizes that I made. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you did, please be sure to come visit me over at Hooked on Sewing blog and subscribe to my newsletter. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified when new sewing tutorials are made available. Thank you so much.